Welcome back to the third video of session 9, and we're continuing with the lesson, and at this stage we will look at documentary letter of credit. Documentary letter of credit, or in short LC. This is the most secure method of payment for both importer and exporter in terms of security, and it is therefore the most often acceptable in international trade. In short, if you want to define an LC, it's a promise from a bank to pay a certain sum of money to an exporter. For example, a conditional guarantee of payment from a buyer's bank. Letter of credit, LC, are among the most secure instruments available to international traders. An LC is a commitment by a bank on behalf of the buyer that payment will be made to the exporter provided that the terms and conditions have been met, as verified through the presentation of all required documents. The buyer pays its bank to render this service. An LC is useful when reliable credit information about a foreign buyer is difficult to obtain, but you are satisfied with the credit worthiness of the buyer's foreign bank, at least. A letter of credit also protects the buyer, since no payment obligation arises until the goods have been shipped or delivered as promised. For documentary letter of credit, the buyer authorizes the bank to issue a documentary credit, who then passes on the details to the bank in the seller's country. The seller's bank advises the seller of the existence of such a credit. Then the seller follows up by shipping the goods and then obtain the documents required under the credit and present it through the banking system for payment. In a letter of credit, the promise to pay is conditional on the exporter providing the documents stated in the letter of credit. Failure, incomplete, or incorrect, which the bank rejects the transaction. If there is anything incorrect or even words are not completed, the bank will reject the transaction altogether in letter of credit. There are certain documents required under letter of credit, and I have listed them on the next slide for you. The documents required under letter of credit includes commercial invoice, certificate of origin, insurance policy or insurance certificate, transport document, and any other documents that ought to be added. You need to add packing specifications of the cargo, inspection certificates, standard certificates, clean report of findings, and other authorizations such as veterinary certificate if so required, and dangerous goods note if that cargo is dangerous goods. There's something you must ensure you take notice of, that the banks operate on a doctrine or strict compliance. This means even a wrongly spelled name or words, an incorrect figure or date will result in non-acceptance by the bank. So you have to be very meticulous and do verifications. Look over and over again to ensure that every detail on the document is accurate, correct. At this stage, let me explain how the LC or letter of credit works. How an LC works. The exporter sends a quotation giving letter of credit as the method of payment. So in a quotation, it will be stated that the method of payment shall be the means by which payment should be made. The buyer and seller must agree on this in the transaction. The buyer then requests their bank or any other from the buyer's country to issue a letter of credit in favor of the seller for the contract sum agreed for the sale of the goods.